Hey, really quickly before we start the video, I just wanted to address something from the last video. You know, the one where we were talking about DSP's clothes and how they don't fit him properly and they look awful on him. A lot of you pointed out that the story doesn't exactly add up because he claims that he bought those clothes 10 years ago, but 10 years ago he was about 30 pounds heavier. So there's no way in hell these tight-fitting clothes now would ever have fit him back then. So either he bought those clothes recently, specifically after LTG told him to work on his sexy and quit wearing gamer shit, or he really did buy those clothes 10 years ago and they didn't fit at all. They were like 4 sizes too small. I'm leaning more towards the first option myself. It wasn't something that I caught or mentioned during the video, but all of you did. So I did want to address it shortly now, and thank all of you guys for leaving your comments about that, because there are so many things when you deal with watching the guy and talking about the guy that you probably wind up missing a little bit of it, and I appreciate all of your perspectives and letting me in on the pieces that you get.
I have one story to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. So it's time for my favorite segment, your favorite segment, the segment we haven't done in ages. It's time for DSP News.
Oh boy, I sure hope you guys are ready for horrible takes and extreme bias here on DSP News, because that's about all he can offer on this news show. And just like calling the podcast a podcast because it's actually a pre-stream, I struggled to actually call this a news show at all. It's not even a news segment, because he doesn't actually report anything or give any sort of solid information at all. He just regurgitates article headlines and Twitter posts that he saw. He doesn't have any sort of sources to cite. He doesn't actually show you any content whatsoever. He just reads things that he saw on Twitter, and I actually don't even think that he wrote down the things he saw on Twitter. I think he actually goes and finds the tweets themselves, because much like everything that DSP does, it has to be as low effort as possible or it's not worth doing for him.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, were you aware that this morning Rocksteady Games put out the first in supposedly a series of videos that's going to talk about the impending release of Suicide Squad? If you're not aware, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is the new game from the makers of the Arkham trilogy, and it comes out, I think, February 2nd, and they're sticking to that date. Even though there's going to be an insane amount of games coming out around that time, they're still sticking to that date.
Well, what did you want them to do, DSP? Just because a bunch of other games were coming out, you think that they would delay their game? Why the hell do they care what other games are coming out? If people are interested in actually playing their game, they're gonna still play the game regardless of other things that are happening around it. Now, I totally get if the company actually thought, hey, maybe it's not the best idea to release during such a busy time. That does make sense. But for DSP to sit here and expect that they were gonna change the date because other things were gonna be coming out is kind of asinine and insulting. But of course, DSP is the best businessman on the planet. That's why he filed for bankruptcy, so they should have just asked him when they should have released their game, because he clearly has the right answer.
Now, the last time that we heard from this game and they showed gameplay, everyone cringed and laughed and said, "Are you effing serious?" Why? Because while the Arkham trilogy of games was hyper-focused on Batman and what it would like to be Batman, and it was gritty, and it was dark, and it was a situation where it really felt like you were this one-man army hero fighting against the evil villains of Gotham City, right? And it was a good representation of what Arkham Asylum would be, and then what Gotham City really would be, and all of that, right? When you start watching the footage of Suicide Squad, you're like, wait a minute, what is this? So basically, you're in Metropolis, okay? They say, oh, it's twice as big as Arkham City, okay? But the entire game, you're just doing this third-person gunplay with traversal.
I like that when they showed off a short preview of some of the aspects of the game, DSP immediately is jumping in with, the entire game is just this. The one thing that they showed, yeah, that's the whole game. I already know. He brings this sort of mentality to everything he does. He does it on his React show. Every single video he watches, he'll stop 6 seconds in and then have a bunch of questions, ask his chat, and then move on from the video. He's not actually interested in finding out. And unfortunately, that mentality carries over to his news segment.
Right? And the Suicide Squad are doing this witty banter, right, back and forth, to each other, and the gameplay is literally, I'm not kidding you, oh look, there's a turret with a big blinky spot. Everyone target the blinky spot and shoot it. Yeah, target the weak point for massive damage. We're back to the launch of PS3 apparently.
DSP, I hate to tell you this, but tons of games have the weak spot mechanic. Just about every single Resident Evil to date has the weak spot mechanic. And again, he acts like he knows exactly how all of the gameplay is going to work and all the game mechanics, and it's just going to be this the entire time based off of this short snippet that they showed. And he brought up the whimsical banter between the characters like that was some sort of negative. I'm not typically one for comedy and cringe dialogue in video games. That's personally why I can't stand the Borderlands series. It's all god-awful writing. But what did he really expect from a Suicide Suicide Squad game. I mean, half the movies are just dialogue and banter between the characters. Why would Rocksteady go out of their way to make their characters intentionally not behave like their characters do in the movie? 100% they don't have to be one-to-one recreations of the characters from the movies, obviously. But did he expect a dark, gritty story as if this were gonna be like a Batman game? Dude, it's Suicide Squad. They have fun characters.
And so I did not watch the entire 20-minute presentation from this morning.
So he couldn't even be bothered to watch the full 20-minute presentation, but still felt comfortable getting on his news segment, in air quotes, and reporting on it, in air quotes. How the hell is anyone supposed to take your news or your opinion on the matter seriously at all if you didn't even bother watching the 20-minute segment? It's just 20 minutes, DSP. You don't have 20 minutes? I know you do, because you at least took a 20-minute bathroom break before going on the stream. And I know those bathroom breaks are guaranteed 20 minutes, so you definitely had the time. But of course, I know you were pulling Hogan, so maybe you didn't.
But what I did is I skimmed through it and I got the gist of it.
Oh, never mind. I guess I have to take back everything that I said because he skimmed through it and got the gist of it.
So here's the deal. Here's what Rocksteady is saying. We don't just make gritty games like the Arkham series. The reason the Arkham trilogy of games was dark and gritty is because that fit the Batman character. But with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, this has to be more upbeat, more irreverent, has to be more colorful, because the Suicide Squad are like that. So we want to be true to the Suicide Squad characters and the feelings and the themes of Suicide Squad. And that's why it's going to be like that. And they also said, oh yeah, that's why it's third-person shooting. You know, a lot of people are wondering, why do we make a shooter? Because that's how the Suicide Squad would fight. They're not Batman. Instead, they're going to be running around with guns because they don't care about destruction. They don't care about who they hurt. They're just about getting the job done. So they're going to run around with a giant arsenal of weapons and running around and shooting things. And, you know, the shark guy's going to bite people's heads off and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm listening to all of this, right? And let me put it this way. From a game developer standpoint, literally everything they say makes sense.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard DSP claim that he was gonna let you know what they were basically saying and not make someone look like an absolute idiot. Because like he just said, everything there seems to make sense. They want to be true to the characters, the motives, the vibe of the setting. That sounds good to me, but I'm sure DSP has something negative to say.
The cutscenes are going to be outstanding. Expect the same quality of cutscene that you had in the Arkham trilogy, you're going to get in this game. The story's going to be a good, serious story. Even though the Suicide Squad's are irreverent, there's still going to be a serious story in here and all of that, right? Okay, I get it. But herein lies the problem, all right? And I've been saying this for many, many years. My attitude has not changed. But I feel like at this point, it needs to be said. And I've already said it. I'll say it again, all right? Why on earth, of all the characters, of all the storylines, of all the comic book plots and all the lore, of this ginormous treasure trove of stories and content in the DC universe that you could draw upon to make a movie or a game or a series, why do these fucking directors and creators keep making shit around the Suicide Squad?
Well, DSP, to be honest with you, even though they fumbled the ball a little bit on both of the Suicide Squad movies, I do think that the Suicide Squad themselves does have a general appeal to normies. And I don't mean normies in a derogatory way. I think that the average person, the normal person, the person that's not involved in geek culture or knows a lot about superheroes does actually like the characters in Suicide Squad. Not to mention that the Suicide Squad offers DC an opportunity to have a fun, lighthearted movie with characters that have witty banter between them. Because while I don't actually enjoy superhero movies, that is the one part of Marvel movies that I do actually enjoy, is the characters interacting between each other can be whimsical, it can be fun. Like I said, can be. It doesn't always mean that's the case though.
News fucking flash, okay? Most people don't care about the B team or the C team or the fucking D team when you haven't even done something good with the A team yet, all right? So there's one good game series for DC Comics, the Arkham series. That's literally it. Can you name another good video game that covered DC characters at all? No. How about Superman? How about The Flash? How about Green Lantern? How about Wonder Woman? Fuck. How about the Justice League in general, right? Or, I mean, let's go. How about other things in the Batman universe that are good? They tried Gotham Knights. It just wasn't that good, right?
As someone who's not into superheroes at all of those options sound incredibly boring to me. Not only are all of those characters uninteresting to me, but I feel like the majority of the gameplay for all of those games would be too similar to Batman. I mean, this is coming from the same guy who was just giving Bungie shit the other day because all they can make is a Halo, apparently. But he's gonna sit here and act like Rocksteady's supposed to sit here and make a bunch of different superhero games that all play like Batman. That just seems stupid to me. And I think it's very clear that they're trying to capitalize off of the name of the movies that have been out about the Suicide Squad, as well as the characters themselves. Because something that I think that DC suffers from a lot when it comes to their superheroes is they're too self-serious. They're not actually fun at all. So I don't care if they're the A team or the Z team. If they're gonna be fun, if they're gonna make for a good game, which personally I'm not gonna pick the game up regardless, so I don't have any dog in this fight anyway. But if they're gonna be fun, if it's gonna be a good game, great. Do whatever you gotta do. Pick whatever team you want.
We have a chance now to dive into DC and pick out the best plot lines, the best characters, and bring them to life in video games. Why the fuck did you go from Batman to the D team that no one gives two fucks about? This all started with the original Suicide Squad movie, which fucking sucked.
This might be a hot take, but I don't honestly think it was that bad. It definitely was not a good movie at all. It was high-key kind of cringe. But when I actually watched it, it was just fine. It was just kind of meh. Which is how I'm left feeling after most movies, so I would just say it was about average. It was on par with a lot of films that I've seen.
And then they redid it. James Gunn did his own Suicide Squad movie. And guess what? It wasn't good. It was just, it was okay. I saw both movies. They're not great.
And I thought the James Gunn movie was pretty decent. There was definitely parts in it that were stupid, and I wouldn't watch it a third time, but I saw it twice. It was fine. But DSP thinks that the pinnacle of cinema is Ghostbusters 2. So why the hell am I going to listen to his opinion on how good a movie is or isn't? Especially when he's made it very clear during his Halloween movie reviews that half the time he doesn't actually understand the plot or the nuances in a plot during the movie anyway.
Okay? So what possesses you when you have a bad movie and a meh movie to make a fucking video game based on that lore? The movies didn't do good. So what made you think the game would do good? Newsflash, the Suicide Squad is fucking annoying. It's a bunch of reject villains who can't win. They're all in jail. They're losers. So now they have to band together to try to do a good thing against their own will. That's not that interesting.
See, DSP, I think that's where you're wrong because I actually don't mind their plot at all. At least it's semi-original. How many times can you play a Batman game and it is just Batman have to take down the bad guy because they bad? And he keeps harping on the fact that, oh, they're reject villains. They're nobodies. They're not the big names, you know? But sometimes the BT is more interesting than the actual A team. My favorite two Halos are Halo Reach, which is not about Master Chief, and Halo 3 ODST, which again is not about Master Chief. It's about the B and C teams. Sometimes picking characters who aren't the biggest name on the billboard is actually more fun. It provides a different setting. It provides a different feeling. And sometimes people appreciate that break from not having the same big names shoved down their throat nonstop like Batman and Spider-Man.
It's interesting for like 10 fucking minutes, and then as soon as the puns run out and the personalities become obnoxious, you don't care anymore, right? That's exactly what happened when I was watching the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. Like, for fucking 20, 30 minutes, it was all right. And then the rest of the movie was fucking obnoxious. It's like, I don't fucking want to watch this anyway. This is stupid. The ending sucked ass. The final boss fight was stupid as fuck. I was like, this is dumb. That's what I mean. Who the fuck cares about these characters?
So just like always, DSP didn't enjoy a piece of media, so nobody else is supposed to like it either. Dissenting opinions get sent to Banworld or have their skulls immediately crushed by the moderation team. Nobody else is allowed to care about things that DSP doesn't care about.
So here's the problem with Rocksteady. High production value. Tons of attention to detail and care. They want to get all these characters right. The problem is they picked the wrong source material. You picked the worst possible choice for your next game. They fucked up. I don't know who thought the idea, because again, for some reason, for like 5 years, everyone, Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad, Suicide Squad. No one cares about the fucking Suicide Squad. They suck. They fucking suck. They're fucking shit. It's a bad idea. It's like a one-off idea for a spin-off comic that gets a few issues. And then you fucking say it never happened.
And that's how I feel about most superheroes, to be honest with you. I think most of them are uninteresting and bland and boring. But here's the thing though, I'm not the one ranting about it like a maniac. This whole segment has got him tilted for some reason. DSP, if you didn't like the way the game looked, you could just say that you didn't think it looked very good in your opinion and move on. I mean, how difficult is it to say, hey guys, this thing came out today, I skimmed through it, I watched it, here's what they said, this is the vague idea that I got from it, I don't think it's really gonna be for me, so I'm not gonna keep looking into it, and I'm not interested in picking it up when it comes out. If I hear good things about it after it comes out, maybe I'll look into it again, but until then, I'm really not interested. Thanks for your time. But instead, he's going on an absolute baby man rant for no reason. DSP, not every game is gonna be for you. That's okay. I mean, they barely even make games that I enjoy anymore. So I guess welcome to the club.
You don't need to fucking be making a million movies, a million fucking games. It sucks shit, right? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense at all, all right?
And I know he's being hyperbolic and exaggerating to get his point across, but of course I gotta point out that he's talking about 1,000,000 movies, 1,000,000 video games. They made literally 2 movies and they actually haven't even finished the game yet. I just wanted to point it out because based on how he's talking, you'd think that they would have released 5 movies and 3 video games already.
So, that's the problem. I don't think that the game developers are doing a bad job. You're working with horrible source material. No one wants to play a game where everyone's a generic villain that has to run around and use a gun. That's boring. I could have played a game called Sunset Overdrive almost 10 fucking years ago that looks exactly the same as your game. It literally looks like Sunset Overdrive with a fucking DC Comics skin over it, right? Or Fortnite with a DC Comics skin over it. It doesn't even look like anything interesting or original. It doesn't.
Well, welcome to the modern games industry, I guess, DSP. I thought you'd been here a while, but since you're just showing up, this is how we roll now. I'd highly recommend, though, that you don't get so irate about it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter at all. But he wants to sit here and complain, oh, this looks just like this game, there's no originality. Newsflash for you, DSP. Rocksteady Studios hasn't made an original game since 2009 with the first Arkham game. And it's time for another one of my unpopular opinions. That was the last good Arkham game. But I feel like a lot of AAA studios aren't doing anything original anymore. I don't understand how you missed that in the last, what, 8 years? There's definitely original games being created and coming out frequently, but they're not AAA studio titles. Because games with studios that big can't take the risk of making a game that doesn't sell. But you refuse to play indie games. You actively shit on indie games every single chance you get. And even when someone recommended that you play indie games on your Sub Sunday or your Member Monday or whatever, you immediately shot down the idea. Instead, you'd rather just play every single unoriginal AAA title and just complain the entire time. But that's the popular thing. That's what everybody else is playing, so that's what you're gonna keep playing. And you're gonna keep giving them your money, even though you don't actually enjoy the product that you're receiving. But you're gonna keep doing it because you're a little consumer.
I'm sorry, it looks boring as dirt. Even watching this 20-minute expose about how much work they put into it, don't worry, the story will be good, the cutscenes are good. Yeah, but how long are the game is the story and the cutscenes? You have to play the game in between. And if the game in between is boring, the game's gonna suck. It doesn't matter how much love and attention you put into it. This game is gonna it's gonna fuck them over. And the fact that they're all kind of going like this, like, no, it's okay. Don't worry, it's all gonna turn out well. It's all gonna turn out well.
So it's okay for DSP to say that he's sticking to his guns and he's standing by the content that he makes and he really enjoys doing it, and that's all that matters. But it's not okay for Rocksteady to say that they're making the game that they want to make. They do genuinely think that it's a good game. They think that people are going to enjoy it and they're going to stand by it. All right, I guess I'll just keep that in mind. DSP's the only person who's allowed to stand by the product that they make. Kind of funny that one of the worst content creators on YouTube is the only person that's allowed to stand by the content that they make.
Where was the market research? When you're gonna take your studio in a completely different direction, right? We're gonna depart from Batman, but we're gonna do something completely different. We're gonna do a different storyline. Where was the market research to say, what do people want? Because I guarantee you, if you ask gamers, what would you want next? They would have said one of two things: Superman or Justice League. Those are the two things they would have wanted, not the fucking Suicide Squad.
Mods, people asking for a Superman game are ban on site. Those people are bozos. Superman is so boring.
Nobody gives a fuck about the Suicide Squad anymore. Yes, this pisses me off, because I think Rocksteady is an outstanding game developer, and I hate to say it, they're about to go the same way BioWare went, but BioWare was forced to make Anthem, right? It doesn't matter how good of a studio you are, if you're forced to do something with shitty material, shitty subject matter, it's gonna suck anyway.
My real question is, why does Rocksteady get to be such a solid developer in DSP's eyes? Why are they such a good studio? Because while I agree that Arkham Asylum was good, and a lot of people say that Arkham City was really good as well, Arkham Knight had a terrible PC port, and I didn't hear a lot of praise being heaped onto the game on the console port either. I didn't hear anybody talking about Arkham VR, so I really failed to see why DSP is so invested in Rocksteady, like they're some do-no-wrong company.
You know what I'm saying? There's just nothing you can really do about it. Oh, by the way, if you weren't aware, Suicide Squad is a games as a service game. What does that mean? You buy the game, and then they're going to have series of free piecemeal DLCs later to keep you playing it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to agree with DSP on this one. Games as a service games are absolute scams. I will not support them in any way, shape, or form. It's an honest shame that video games have moved in that direction because they're awful that way. Honestly, at this point, if your game has a battle pass or if it has seasonal content, I'm not interested, bro. Get it out of here.
So, yeah, they're fucked. I hate to say it, like, they really are fucked. I don't know how they think this game is going to succeed. Again, you know, and this is so pathetic because this came from the studio that made the best trilogy of superhero games ever made.
What a weird qualifier. Rocksteady is apparently responsible for the best superhero game trilogy ever made. My only question is, what other game studio has ever made a superhero trilogy that it can be compared to? Most superhero games before recent years were absolute ass. They definitely didn't get trilogies. I mean, I guess Spider-Man got a bunch of bad games throughout the years. I guess the new Spider-Man games by Insomniac technically count, but that's really the only trilogy of superhero games that I can even think of.
And we were just talking about it as I finished Spider-Man 2. And people said, well, what do you think? Do you think Spider-Man 2 is better than the Arkham trilogy? And my answer is, in 2023, yes. But the Arkham trilogy absolutely was the best superhero game of the time. What's happened is that technology is advanced and everything. So now when you play Spider-Man 2, oh my god, the open world city is so amazing when the graphics and how it looks realistic and the traversal is outstanding and everything. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't do that back 10 years ago with the Arkham trilogy. They couldn't even do that. It wouldn't load fast enough or whatever. Now we've gotten to that point. If Rocksteady were to make a Batman game now, it probably would be better than Spider-Man 2.
Why does he feel the need to defend and cope for Rocksteady? It was a little suspect earlier when he was going on and on about all of his praise for Rocksteady, but now after the defense and the cope for them, you'd think they was paying him under the table or something.
I'm just being honest. They probably would, but I mean, it's a subject of the time, right? At the time, Arkham was the absolute best. Now, Spider-Man 2 has surpassed it, and now it looks like they're not even trying to compete. They wanted to do Suicide Squad. They're doing it. This game is not going to do well. I just predict it right now. This game is not going to be a great seller. It's not going to sell anywhere near the Batman trilogy. People are going to pan it, and it's going to suck.
I also don't think that the game is probably gonna do as well as they hope it does, but now I hope it does, despite DSP. DSP is the same person that said that Starfield was obviously gonna win Game of the Year and you weren't gonna hear about Baldur's Gate 3 after Starfield came out. And we saw how right he was on that one. So let's not act like DSP's word is law or anything. Not that I was worried any of you were gonna do that, trust me. I'm well aware of how you guys feel about DSP.
And they fucking picked the wrong subject. I don't know how, again, how do you not do any fucking market research? Right? How? How do you not do research to figure out what people want and give them not what they want? I don't understand that. We're just going to spend all this time and money, all these years making a game. But did anyone want it? Do we ask? No, we don't have to ask. We know better than everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we just spent over a half an hour on this very podcast, me talking with my audience to figure out what you guys want, and we just figured out a nice schedule for the next week. Did we not?
Yeah, no, DSP, that's not the same thing at all. That's a false equivalency. You're ignorant. Honestly, it's kind of sad that you can't even set up your own streaming schedule without getting direct input from your fans. Like, you actually can't figure out what you're going to do on your streams day to day without someone telling you what to do. And I really do hope that the streaming schedule that you came up with absolutely implodes. I hope that absolutely nobody shows up for the Call of Duty Day streams and we get to hear all of those rants about that. And I also hope that nobody shows up for the Mario RPG at night.
How do we figure that out? By me talking to my audience, my customer base, and figuring this out. Correct? How the fuck do game developers not know this? That this is what you have to do. Instead, they get these weird ideas in their head and they just roll with them without actually seeing if anyone wants it. How the fuck does that make any sense?
I'm pretty certain that they did a bunch of marketing research, actually. Unfortunately for video game players, they've been buying against their own interest for years now. People who play video games are the reason that video games are in the absolute horrible state that they are in. And until people start voting more with their wallet, there's nothing that anybody can do about it. So again, DSP, it's not worth getting irate about. It's not worth getting upset at all about. Just play the games that you want to play and move on, brother.
Now, Dark Viking made a point. He says, do you think it's the game dev or the publisher? It's a good question. We know in the case of BioWare and Anthem, it was EA. It was not BioWare. BioWare devs outright came out later and said, we did not want to make Anthem. We knew it was a bad idea, but EA forced us to do it. That was the publisher's fault, right? In this case, could it be, what is it, WB Games or whatever? That's the publisher for Rockstar. Maybe they're forcing them. They said, we really want to push Suicide Squad. Well, they're morons. I don't know what else to say. That you did not ask gamers what they wanted. No one wants Suicide Squad. We want the things that we don't have yet. You showed that you could do this amazing game of Batman. Now do it with all the other great heroes. Make these great games. Then, if you want to make these periphery B team, C team, D team fucking games and characters, then do that. Don't skip from A to D. Right? No one wants that.
Well, Rocksteady, if you're listening to this video for some reason, I am a gamer. And I absolutely do not want more superhero games a la Batman. I think if you did the Batman series but made it Superman or Wonder Woman or The Flash, I think that would just be horrible. Please don't ever do that. I would really hope that you actually go make a game that isn't based off of a dull-ass superhero.
Anyway, so that's the news. It's shitty news, for sure. I sure wish that it was better news, but it's shitty news, right? What else can you say? All right, it is time for shout-outs. Finally, let's get to the shout-outs for the show.
And again, I gotta agree with DSP. It is time for shoutouts because that's the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this Suicide Squad rant from DSP. I thought it was funny when I saw it. I wanted to take a look at it. I really appreciate all of you guys checking out the video, especially if you've made it this far. Thank you. It does mean a lot. Hopefully, I'll catch all of you guys in the next video, but until then, make sure that you check out other detractor channels and dive deeper into that Snortex.